I'm going to call this meeting of the District 112 School Board to order. The first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on our agenda is adopting the agenda. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Anderson, second by Meyer. And any conversation, changes, questions? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes, or excuse me, we have an agenda. Next, we have our open forum. No open forum. Communications from our student reps. Since you're chewing, we'll go with Anna first.
Okay. Let's switch off.
Time it.
Perfect timing. So right now has been a really busy time. We've had spring sport tryouts that have started, but we still have winter sport banquets that are happening. So a lot going on, and everyone's really looking forward to spring break next week to kind of relax and slow down a little bit. We've had a ton of speech and knowledge bowl competitions too, so those kids have been going like crazy. Some highlights, we had our DECA team. They competed last weekend, I believe, and they competed against over 2,000 students at their state competition, and 43 of our Chan kids made it to the top 8, and we had 70 competitors, which is impressive, and then 21 of those kids qualified for the international competition, and that'll be in Atlanta, Georgia in April. And then for History Day was another competition that's been going on during this time. And we had 30 kids who participated, and then 14 of them moved on to the state competition, which is also in April. So some cool things coming up. And then tonight, Chan is hosting the regional large group music contest. So there's 12 different schools that are coming, and there's going to be a clinician who will judge every group and give feedback and clinics and stuff. So that'll be a cool opportunity. And then there's also a band concert tomorrow at 7:30.
Wow.
A lot going on.
Going on.
Yeah.
We are also kind of in that mixture of where winter sports are going out and spring sports are headed in, so our gyms are very busy. Obviously, I just came from softball. We were at the Dome, so it's been super awesome having that. So yes, spring sports are having their tryouts and all that fun stuff. Teachers, so the freshman, sophomore, and junior class are prepping for their testing day on the Tuesday they get back from spring break. So juniors have the ACT, and then the freshmen and the sophomores have their MCAs and MAP testing and all that fun stuff. We have HOSA State this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in St. Cloud. So we have bunch of competitors going down there, myself included. I'll be competing as well, so that's super fun. And then we had our band concert last week, I believe, and our choir concert last week. So yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of passing the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And we are on to recommended actions. The first is school board meeting calendar. Clint.
Yeah, so we've talked about this the last few meetings about the calendar. We made that adjustment to move that December meeting. And so based on our previous discussion, the recommendation would be to approve it as discussed and presented.
All right, before we discuss any changes or questions, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second?
All right, board members, anything to add or discuss? Dates are all fine. All right, well,
Everyone's looking at you, Ron.
Yeah, I think the reality is that dates change throughout the course of the year anyway, so it'd be really hard to make any specific changes for a schedule that potentially could change anyway. So I think it makes sense to move forward as proposed.
all right. All those in favor of passing the school board meeting calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have bus contracts. Dee Dee.
Good evening. Excuse me. If you'll recall, at the last board meeting, we reviewed the extension of the Cook school bus service contract for 2 years. If you'll also recall, and is in your cover sheet, the details are on there regarding the wages. So a new starting wage for a starting driver would be $16.16. Existing drivers would be at $19.29 on average. We also talked about getting 2 small buses using medical assistant funds from the district side, which will help offset some of the costs. Their overall price increase is 4.25% for both years. We have the option after the first year of extending it another one, or we could go out and do something different from that. So the administration is recommending the extension with the Cook School Bus Service Company.
Okay, before we have discussion, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, board members, any questions for Dee Dee? We did talk about this at length in February. So does anyone have any follow-up questions?
I don't have any questions. I do want to reiterate, I think I said at last board meeting that I appreciate the creativity and using those MA funds. So I just want to commend you guys for kind of being creative and looking at opportunities to take advantage of those funds, and also, hopefully helping the contractor as well in some of that.
Right.
So.
Yep, and it will help the STAR program because they'll have buses at that site and might have more opportunity.
Great.
If there are no other questions, I will call the question. All those in favor of accepting the Cook Transportation contract as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, and then the Positive Connections Transportation contract.
Okay, so again, at last board meeting, we reviewed the Positive Connections Student Transportation of America contract. Again, similar to the Cook contract, it's a 2-year agreement or extension of the initial agreement, and we can do 1 year and then review again and do a second year, or we can choose to go out for bids or look at it differently. So the overall rate increase is 3%, as outlined in your board documents. The starting wage at $18.35. Current drivers will get a 50-cent increase. We'll be adding 5 new buses to the fleet. We'll be increasing the spare bus factor from 10% to 17%. And then in year 2, we'll add 1 additional bus. So administration is recommending the approval of the 2-year extension with Positive Connections Student Transportation of America.
Okay. Before we have any discussion, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Dee Dee on this one? Once again, we did discuss it in February, but if anything has come to mind since then?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a few comments that first of all, I want to thank Dee Dee and John I know that a lot of work goes into negotiation of a contract and determining what steps to take for transportation. I do have several concerns with this particular contract, different than the Cook contract, which I think that one in particular got us a little bit closer to the averages in the metro area. I'm not thrilled about being the kind of the most expensive in the metro area. I think that is a precedent that is unsustainable, especially as we seek to put as much into classrooms and some of the cutting edge things that we're doing with personalized learning. I think being the highest in the metro area is a precedent that is difficult to sustain. I think some of the concerns specifically is even though I know that John had mentioned that our rates are getting close, or some of our neighboring districts are getting closer to those rates. We also own our own garage, and so that should, from my perspective, count towards something in terms of lowering those overall rates. I'm also concerned that while STA is proposing a 3% increase, they're only putting 2% on the starting wages. And again, if that's really the big challenge for them is getting drivers, to me it seems like they should be putting some more on to those starting wages to get some of those drivers in. And then also, I think that we haven't necessarily experienced the greatest level of service this year. In particular, we had some issues back at the beginning of the year with them getting their buses into Minnesota, getting them ready and up and running for us. So some of those things combined have me concerned, especially with this 3% continues to put us at or near the top in the metro area in terms of the rates. So from my perspective, I think obviously there's some challenges right now in terms of timing and whether or not we could get another competitor in here at this point in time. So regardless of the outcome tonight, my hope would be that we would reevaluate this if it does pass tonight, that we would reevaluate it in the fall and take a look at all of the different options that we might have before us. So.
And this is just a one-year extension, correct?
It is the potential of 2, but we can always start with 1 and then decide whether or not we want to do 2.
Okay.
But as Ron and I have had a conversation, and John as well, and excuse me, it's been my desire to really take a look at our contracted services for transportation. Is that the best route? Are we better off going on our own? As you know, we have an aging bus facility, which does not lend itself to be very attractive to a lot of bus companies as well. There's some shortcomings out there. And when we did go out for bids 2 years ago, Positive Connections was the only one we got a bid from. So as Ron mentioned, going out for bid right now would be a bit of a challenge for starting up next school year. So, and Ron has had conversations with both John and I to talk through a number of things. So appreciate the comments.
All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor of passing the Positive Connections Transportation Contract as presented, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have the 2019 preliminary capital-related budget.
Okay, so again, I presented the preliminary capital-related budgets at the last board meeting, our work session in February, and that includes the operating capital, long-term facility maintenance, which covers health and safety and deferred maintenance projects, the capital project, which is many of you recognize as the tech levy, and then the construction budget as well. So as a reminder, we usually go through the process of approving this budget or asking you to approve this budget now so we can take advantage of optimal bidding season. We may come back to you in June with a revision, and that could be due to either changes in our student count. It could be due to legislation. So if we do come back with any changes, we'd ask you to approve that with the regular budget. So tonight, we're asking you to approve the 2019 capital-related budgets as presented. Thank you.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
All right, board members, any questions for Dee Dee on the capital-related budget? Right, hearing none. All those in favor of passing the budget as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Insurance premiums.
Yes, good evening. So this evening, I've got 4 recommendations for the board to remain with Health Partners for our medical insurance, to decrease rates, our medical rates, by either 2 or 7%, depending on which network our employees choose, a transition to a new configuration for premium rates, and then no change to the dental premium rates. And these recommendations, as you know, come from our benefits/insurance committee. That group meets once a month to review everything that's going on in our district in regard to benefits. And we have 1 member from each of our bargaining groups that is, part of that committee. And with that first recommendation, and you can have this in your board packet, but the first recommendation about remaining with Health Partners for medical insurance, this was the year that the district went out and received bids for the next couple of years. And we did receive bids from Health Partners, which is our current provider, Medica, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and Preferred One. And upon review and aided by, as you know, we have a third-party administration, Gallagher and Associates, that helps us with all this. The committee recommends that the district remain with Health Partners for the medical insurance. That second recommendation on the medical insurance premium rates decreasing by 2% or 7%. As you know, we went to self-funding. Well, we'll be starting, I think it's our 5th year. And boy, has that worked just the way we've wanted it to. We've been able to build up that reserve, if you remember, that we wanted to be able to do. And so right now, we'd like to have that reserve between 8 and 12 months of claims. And because we're at that, we feel real comfortable about recommending reducing our medical insurance rates by 2% for our open access plan, and then by 7% for those employees that wish to access the new Achievement Network plan. And you have that information in your packet also. And the reserve at the end of next year is projected to be at approximately 9 to 10 months, even with these new proposed rates. Okay? And the difference between the open access and the Achieve network, open access, you can pretty much go anywhere, and on that Achieve network, you can see on that sheet that it includes a lot of the Park Nicollet clinics, which Park Nicollet and Ridgeview, I think, makes up about 80% of our employees go to those clinics. And so this is a nice new option for people if they want to access, that information that's part of that Achieve network. And with that, because you get lower rates, that's why we can charge the lower premium rates. The third recommendation is this transition to a new configuration for our premium rates for 2018-19. That recommendation from the committee is something that we've actually been discussing for quite a few years, and that's changing our current medical insurance configuration of premium rates. Right now we have single plus 1 or 2, and we have family. And what we want to do is switch that to single plus 1, and family. And simply that current configuration is kind of an odd duck with that single plus 1 or 2. I see you all shaking your heads. Yeah. It really is. It is compared to the marketplace, and that the configuration of the medical insurance does not match what we do in dental. In dental, we have the single plus 1, and family. And also the employees for years that need only that single plus 1, they know that standard market configuration is single plus 1, and they know that they're paying the higher premiums because the district is forcing them into that single plus 1 or 2. Okay? And you can see that by the rates on the sheet that's part of your packet. So as part of that recommendation, what the committee is recommending is that by July 1st, 2018, that the health insurance configuration for the new employees will be the single plus 1 or family. And then, so as of that, the current employees who wish to enroll a single plus 1 may do so, and there will be a lower rate now associated with that single plus 1 if they enroll in that. And of course, you probably all remember that I was part of the Boundary Task Force along with Dee Dee, and the great grandfathering clause that we had. And so we've added a little grandfathering clause with this also.
Just can't get enough of that grandfathering.
We just can't get enough of that grandfathering. We even made it the same number of years. It's 3 years. So what it really is doing is we do have some employees that are in that single plus 2 rate, and they're going to be pushed into the family rate eventually. So we decided to do as a committee, we said, let's, if they're currently in that single plus 2 rate, let's let them stay there, okay, for 3 years, kind of grandfather it in, and then I think the year is like 2021, everybody will be in that. But anybody new coming in will only be able, to join as single plus 1 or family, okay? So we like that grandfathering, all right? And the last,
Created a monster.
you bet. The last recommendation is the dental insurance premium rates, and I think you know that we're also self-funded there, and it's been doing fine. We've actually been trying to spend that one down over the last few years. We've had some years where we have had no increase in rates, and that's what the committee is recommending at this time also, is to keep those rates the same as what they are in this current year. And the other things that I normally talk about, the life insurance, supplemental life, the accidental death and dismemberment, and long-term disability, there's no change in those rates because we're already under contract until July of 2020. Okay? So that's more than I usually talk about with the insurance or anything. But
I love that.
But anyway, again, those recommendations are to remain with health partners, decrease the rates by 2 or 7%, the transition to the new configuration, and again, the no change to the dental premium rates.
All right, before we get to any questions, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second?
All right, board members, any questions for Dr. O'Connell?
So, Dr. O'Connell, usually there's this, we've been talking for 5 years now about one of those years is going to be a big year.
Yeah.
Have we had our big year?
No, we haven't. No.
Wow.
No, it's really, I'll tell you what, when we moved to this, we thought, we'd been talking about it for years and we thought it was going to be a good idea. We thought we were at that point, large enough district to make that move. And it really has worked out great for us.
Unbelievable.
Okay. Yeah. And so we've been able to build that reserve up. And now we're at that point where we feel really comfortable again with the advice of Gallagher and Associates where we're at to go ahead and make a decrease. I think our rates have been, I think we've gone like 4, 4, 2, 0, and now we're at -2 and -7 if they do that achieve. So it's really been good. Knock on wood. We haven't
is
had
it open
that.
to board members? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, so it's it's really worked out. It worked out, and so our committee we're reviewing the data on a month-to-month basis. The claims versus what the premium is, and we're in really good shape with that.
We must have the world's best wellness program, which we do. But I mean, this is really good news. I'm really excited.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good work.
Do you have any sense on how many participants are in that single plus two?
Yes.
No?
Yeah. There's probably there's about 50.
50? Okay.
Yep. And when we looked at the data, over the next 3 years, there'll be some that will drop off anyway because they may have children that are on the plan that are 24 and you can keep them on until 26. And so I think we saw where there was like 10 that probably would be dropping to single plus one anyway. Yep.
Well, I'll echo Lisa and just say that's awesome news because that's even other districts that have went to self-funded aren't
Yep.
necessarily having the same type of results that we
Yeah,
have. So
ours
that's
have
great.
really been pretty steady for all the years, and that's kind of what our data was showing before, and that's why our third-party administrator at the time was saying, we really think you want to do this.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and adding another option too is really nice
Yes.
as well.
It
So
is.
even better. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of passing the insurance premiums and medical configurations as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Great, thanks.
Right, and that does it for our recommended actions. We are on to reports, nutrition services update.
Okay, meal served. It was awesome. Awesome. We're done, right? No. We do have a presentation tonight. So as you may have seen in our, I got to get back to the beginning here. I don't want to hit the wrong button. Our food service department serves over 1 million meals a year. They're very busy. They've done a lot of changes to fit in with the regulations that are in place, and yet serving food like you had tonight, which I would say is very, very good, very tasty, very pleasant in the appearance and their presentation. Everything was done just very, very well. So I'm going to turn it over to the two experts here and let them move forward with the presentation.
All right, good evening. And I hope you did enjoy the food. It was prepared at Chanhassen High School. So we have a lot of great food service people throughout the district, but they prepared it for you tonight. In looking at our program overview, we participate in 3 USDA child nutrition programs. They're breakfast, lunch, and summer feeding program. And as Dee Dee said, we serve a lot of meals. If you look at our totals for 2016-17, we served over 244,000 breakfasts and over 1 million lunches. We also feed summer school in the summer and do breakfast and also lunch. Our free and reduced rate is 19%. And of course, we gave you in your packet a brochure on how to apply for free and reduced meals. We designed this for parents. Every year they have to fill out an application, and we thought this would help them as far as ways they can do it. They can do it online or the paper version, but it's a way that we hope increased our numbers and or at least explained it to them. It's also important, as we pointed out, for compensatory aid. So the amount of money we receive is directly in correlation to the number of free and reduced students. All right, the next slide is just an overview from 2010 when the Healthy, Hungry, Free Kids Act passed, which was a major change for school nutrition programs. But you can see through the 2010-2017, as far as our number of reduced, free, and full-paid students has remained steady.
So with all those meals that we're serving, there's got to be rules. And we have to follow the USDA regulation. And the tray that's in your packet shows the 5 different components that we serve each student that we make available to them. There's the fruit, the vegetable, the meat, grain, and milk. And along with those, there is different grade levels that we have to follow. So there's calorie restrictions and minimums that we follow, along with sodium restrictions, and saturated fat is less than 10%. And it follows our elementary, middle school, and high school grade levels for those. The other thing that you saw at the food that we provided was keeping it fresh. That's one of our main goals that we have. Last year alone, we spent $300,000 in fresh fruit and vegetables, offered 21 different types of fruits, 24 different types of vegetables. And, our milk is always local. So it's always right from a farm right down the road. And then the farm to school program, we work with 13 different local producers and one of them being Sponsol's Minnesota Apple Harvest.
All right. We always appreciate student feedback, and we have students taste test our recipes, taste test different products to get their thoughts and opinions. And then we have at every school site, we do focus groups. The younger children are a little more challenging with their information, but the older they get, they're really dynamite groups as far as finding out what students want in their programs, looking at the environment, looking at our staff, and giving us really just great information and feedback.
These two would concur.
Oh!
I love it when they come in with new stuff. I was like, yes, Ben.
Very good. It's simple voting. Yeah, thank you. All right. So yes, indeed, we do serve real food. Sometimes that's a question to us. But approximately 70% of our food products have clean labels. And of course, that's a big term today that's used a lot. But we continue to work with manufacturers to obtain more clean labels. We also are looking at the body of science as far as preservatives and additives. And of course, there's controversy on some of this, but as I said, we always base what we do on science research. There's a definition of processed foods for you. All foods are processed, some greater than others, so you can refer to that little chart there.
So another thing that we've been working on is some different marketing strategies. We worked with in collaboration with communications, and we sent out a survey in the spring of 2017, got some answers back on, what's the perception of school lunches and what are we going to do to show that we are serving real food. So we started a Twitter account. We rebranded ourselves with a new logo that resembles the Eastern Carver County's logo. And we did a tasty style video, which this is the first one, and you're one of the first ones to see it. So I hope you enjoy this. So I just wanted to mention that video was shot in our kitchens, and that was our food. So everything was produced on site.
I can second that. That is what our
That's exactly what it looks like. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So
I was like, wait, that happened. I swear I had that 2 weeks ago.
yeah, so so that was, like I said, one of the first videos that we're going to produce to just show that we are cooking with real food. Excuse me. Another partnership that we have is with Carver County Health and Human Services, and we have been working with them, and we continue to work with them with a smarter lunchroom criteria. Now, that's a national criteria that rates cafeterias on how well they're performing with fresh offerings, healthy offerings. And our schools, we had 5 gold awards and 7 silver. So we're right along with the national average, even a little bit better. So,
All right. And lastly, nutrition services initiatives. We're advocating for longer elementary lunch times, curbing food waste, supporting special diets, and continuing education for employees through workshops and classes. And of course, if you want more information, you can go to our website, and you can always call Spencer and I, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have, or if you have some today, we'll try to answer them.
All right, board members, any questions?
Can you talk a little bit more? I'm struck with that advocating for longer elementary lunchtime. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, have you been to our elementary schools for lunch?
I have a couple of elementary schoolers. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, as you know, the elementaries probably get the least amount of time, and the kindergarten and first graders get 20 minutes, I would say, on the average, but the rest of them get 15 minutes from start to finish. And really, when you watch them, this is where, and they're social, some of them, so some of them don't have enough time to eat. I also think we could do a better job of having more people encouraging them to try foods and, take a taste, take a bite, and it's time to eat, which there are some paras that do a great job in there. But I really don't think we have enough time to really do justice to feed our students. And the one that probably upsets me the most is when I see a student eating his tray of food over the trash while they're leaving. It's a problem, though, statewide. It's not just our district by any means. And in every school district I've been in and worked in, it's been an issue. But I think we can work on it and together see what solutions we can come up with.
So to that, I know Carver Elementary has a bigger kitchen and more lines, and so they have a little bit more time because of how they're set up. Or would you agree with that? Or
they have a little more. They have a little more time, but we also feed a lot more, and we feed them fast.
So I was just wondering if there was, process improvements that can be made. And I know that we have space limitations in most of our cafeterias.
Right. Yeah. I think there's some avenues, we just need to keep looking, to keep talking about it, see what we can do. And you're right, it's not, we'd like more time, but we know in the school day there's lots to get into.
Right, but you raise a good point. 15 minutes is not a ton of time. And we're competing against other time constraints as well, so.
I have a hard time eating in 15 minutes, and I don't have the challenges that my son and my two sons do in terms of talking with their neighbors. So
Yeah.
I know that can be a challenge at the elementary level, especially.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you're doing to curb food waste? Because I know that is an issue. You have to take a certain number of things on the tray, especially at elementary school. How are you trying to cut down on that waste?
Well, we have offer versus serve. So of those 5 meal components, the requirement is that they have to take 3. So that has helped reduce it. The other one is if it's a wrapped item, be it a cheese stick or sunflower seeds, carton of milk, we have that sharing basket where they can put food back into it. So other kids can take it if they're still hungry. Or we can, if it's wrapped, we can use it again. We wipe it off, clean it off, and do that. The other one I think that's big that is just starting being promoted is if a student gets an apple, for example, with a little bruise, that doesn't mean the whole apple's bad, but that's a real education piece. Or if the banana is not perfectly yellow and has a little black, that doesn't mean the inside of the banana is bad, but for most kids, and I have 2 boys too that are 26 and 24 now, they do not eat those bananas if there's anything wrong with them. So, but I think that, that's a lesson in education that we need to do. So we're working on it. I think, I think some students are better at, the salad bars in the high schools, they can take as much as they want. We always say, and even the little kids, we say, can you really eat this? Or I had a middle school at a junior high yesterday. She took like a mound of pickles. I said, are you really going to eat all those pickles? Yes, yes. Well, then that's fine. But if you're just wasting it. So I think more education in that area would be good.
For the salad bar, if they do just take a small amount, are they able to go back again if they want more, or is it just like one plated salad and then they're done?
Well, it depends on, let's say if it was the protein item, we watch those because they're more costly, but we always tell them they can eat as many fruits or many vegetables, cooked or raw, as they like. We usually suggest 1 fresh, and then they can have all the fruit sauce they want. But some take more, and we're really pretty liberal. So.
Do you have outlets for food waste in terms of how you dispose of it?
We do not. There's some that districts that have the pig farms, for example, but now it used to be they'd pick it up free. Now you pay for everything. So there really isn't a good outlet. And even dropping off, let's say we had leftover lasagna, 3 pans or something like that. The rules and regulations about how that can be picked up and the health regulations are so strict, it really becomes a challenge.
Just bring those to board meetings.
There you go.
This question occurred to me, and I think I know the answer because it gets into transportation and budget and everything else. Is there any way that something could be set up to provide some sort of meals for kids in the summer when they don't have access to nutritional food, nutritional meals? Mm-hmm. Instead of, I know community ed tries to do a lot with their programs and stuff, but
right.
We have a lot of kids who don't get an awful lot of good nutritious food in the summer.
Mm-hmm. And we did try last year, like you said, we went to, what was the name of the park? Riverview Terrace. We tried that, and we really didn't have great participation. That doesn't mean that, it wouldn't work again if we maybe did more promoting and help students, because you're right. There are pockets of need in every district that needs some help. So
I'm sure education, we have to overcome the pride issue and all
right.
these other things. But if we could somehow develop a consistent program that they knew they could count on, mm-hmm. It might grow.
Sure, yeah.
Do we feel like we're capturing most of the families in our district that would qualify for free and reduced? Do we feel like, or are we losing a good number of them? Because like you said, it does tie into other aid that we get as well.
I think we try very hard to promote it. We did the brochure. We talk about it. We advertise on our webpage. In newsletters, every once in a while, we'll have a blurb that says you can apply for free and reduced meals any time of the year. So I think we work hard to capture them. We work with counselors. We work with principals if they know of a family that's in need. So I think we try very hard to get those students. There's always some, that we're missing, but we now have, we have, and online is in Spanish and English. The written application is in about 12 languages now, so I think we've tried.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. First of all, this is delicious, and thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I have to say that in our consent agenda, your retirement was announced.
Yeah.
Roxanne, and you will be, I mean, you've had a great career here, and you've done great things here, but you will be missed, and so it's.
Thank you.
I'm glad that you were able to be here tonight, and you better be at the retirement banquet. But
They're not my favorite things. I have to tell you. But yeah, it's been a great district to work in. I've had a great opportunity. Dee Dee's been wonderful as a boss, and it's been a true joy here.
well, you've done good work here, and you will be missed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
All right,
saying
thank
that,
you.
Lisa. I was going to bring that up, so I appreciate that you did bring it up. Roxanne's been great. She's been working with Spencer ever since she's been here, and they've been a great team. They've made a lot of changes. I think a lot of the promotional and video things has been their initiative this year, as they mentioned, and working with Brett and his department to do that, and just getting that information out to let people know how valuable the nutrition services department is and what they provide. And we all know that kids that eat well do better in school, and that's been their promotional things. And when you have students who make great comments about it, just makes it all the better. But really, I can't thank both of them enough. As you saw, we had a great meal tonight, but we've had great leadership, and things have really turned around under Roxanne and Spencer, under the leadership that they've provided, and we're going to miss Roxanne. So
Yes, we will.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have field trips.
Okay, I'm pitch hitting here for David. He's on kid duty tonight. So you have a description of the field trips. The first one is the Chanhassen High School Quiz Bowl, the national academic competition. The team earned that opportunity to go. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. It starts May 25th and ends the 28th. Chaska is going to the same type of competition that was in the consent agenda that you passed on earlier. The next one is the Chanhassen and Chaska High School Thespian Troupe Festival. This one will be a new group that's been put together, and this trip will be expanding their experiences. They'll be in Lincoln, Nebraska, and they depart on Monday, June 25th through Sunday, June 30th. And then the final one is Chanhassen High School Instrumental Choral Program International Tour. This is typically done every third year, and Chaska High School also does an international trip. They went spring of 17. This trip is in Costa Rica. It's from March 22nd of 2019 to March 29th of 2029. And I am personally hoping that someone else can't go as a chaperone, because I would volunteer. So these are the three trips. I know you have a lot more detail included in your information. So these would be brought back for approval at the next meeting.
All right, any questions on the field trips? I'm kind of going to write the ratio on that Quiz Bowl one is 1 adult to 2.5 students, but
Yeah.
that's,
Didn't have many kids going, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much. All right, we are done with reports, and now we are on to communication from school board, and we will start with Lisa.
Right. So, as you all know, I know you all know, that today was MSBA Day at the Capitol. And so I was able to attend that. So I do have a request of you three board members. We've been talking about cross-subsidy, and that's one of the issues that we're really trying to push with our legislatures this year. I think the cross-subsidy, for those of you who don't know, is the difference between what the federal government promised to cover for cross-subsidy and what they actually do cover. So for us, we lose about $6 million and some change a year. So what we're asking, so the federal government has promised 40%. They provide 16, probably 16%. We'll probably never get that money back. But we are working with our state legislature to increase that cost. So even if we got 10% back, it would be $600,000. So what MSBA is asking is for board members to have a resolution and pass a resolution that we want this cross-subsidy. And we're seeing some benefits of that across the state. So the cross-subsidy, the School Safety Act has kind of taken a little bit of our thunder away from cross-subsidy, and that's been a bigger issue. But once they found out that 136 boards across the state of Minnesota passed this resolution, it landed back. And so there's a bill in the Senate and a bill in the House. So what I would ask at next board meeting, if we could have a resolution. And right now we're at 175 board districts across the state, so I'd like that to add to that. So that's one thing. The other that I had to mention, and Dee Dee is aware of this, I'm sure, as you are, Clint, is we also had a presentation from, I've got to get the name here right, Randy Johnson of Minnesota School Safety Center. And he mentioned us a couple of times and some of the work that we're doing, and really felt like because of all the work we've done in this district, we were the first district to come out with lockdown plus options, and kind of going through each and doing kind of the mental health assessments, that he really kind of gave a shout out to what the work that we're doing, and that really made me, he said, you know, Eastern Carver County has been a great partner, and I'm like, hey, that would be us. So so I just kind of wanted, it really felt good to know that we're on the front edge of that. We're on the leading edge of school safety and school safety issues. And with everything going on in the nation, and there is a school safety bill kind of coming out, but even that is a lot about money for secured entrances, which we've already done, and money for mental health programs, which we already have in place. So don't get me wrong, we're not going to turn the money away, but it's just good to know that we're on the front end of that. So that is my report.
So Lisa, just before we move on, for that resolution, we'd have to add it to the second meeting in April, because
Yes.
the next meeting would be the work session where we wouldn't.
And that's fine, just as long as it happens before the end of the, which is going to be shortly thereafter. Yeah. Right. Okay, so thank you. Any questions?
I'll just piggyback off that, Lisa, that Southwest Metro Intermediate, which I sit on, did vote and pass the resolution for the cross-subsidy already, so.
Good.
Excellent. Anything else?
Couple other things. I got to attend two Showcase of Excellence and Showcase of Talent at a couple of our middle schools. Pioneer Ridge had their Showcase of Excellence earlier in March, and both of them were very similar in terms of they showcased a lot of their fine arts, a lot of art, a lot of some of their STEM projects that they did, looking at DNA of a strawberry, I think it was, at Pioneer Ridge, which was really cool. I took my son and daughter, my daughter goes to East and my son goes to Victoria, and they loved some of the different art, and we listened to the orchestra and stuff like that. But the other thing that was really striking, which was really cool to see, is my daughter, who's in 7th grade at East, she would go into the different rooms, and whether it be some of the art that they were drawing, or whether it be some of the different projects for STEM, she would look at it and be like, oh, we do that. Or she'd be like, oh, we don't do that at our school. So it was really cool to see kind of some of the similarities between our different middle schools, but also some of the differences that are unique to their own school. And then I got to go to Chaska East to their Showcase of Talent. And Beth and her staff put on a really great night again with music and with just different things that they did. They also had, it was kind of a fundraiser for their PTO, so they had, if you test drove a Ford, Ford gave a donation to the school. So it was really a neat night. The one kind of downfall that I think highlighted it with our beautiful new dome is some of the parking challenges that have also kind of cropped up when you have something like a big event at East, and then they had just practices and stuff going on at the dome. So it was tough to find parking spot. It had just snowed, so not all the parking spaces were available. So that was kind of the challenge, I think. But overall, a great night there as well. So.
Fred?
I attended the Chaska High School Parents Leadership Group, and I just have a couple questions that came up that maybe you, Dee Dee or Clint, you can answer, and I'll pass along too. One of the large swimming organization is rumbling about the fact that we're charging so much more than they are in the city to the north. And they were just saying, well, I wonder if we should maybe go over there and take our swim teams over there, and why is there such a difference in cost? So we talked about it a little bit and decided that a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have a brand new building. It's going to be a brand new pool and all the expenses that come with it, et cetera, et cetera. They seem to think that was probably a pretty logical explanation. But if you have anything else you can give me some time to take back to them, I'd appreciate that. Question came up that I probably should have known the answer for that I didn't. Is there going to be open swimming at both pools or at the pools for the community to be able to come in?
We'll be working with community education to set up any of that.
Okay.
It won't be free open swimming.
Yeah.
That was my next question. That was one of their questions, yeah.
We still have to pay lifeguards and electricity and so.
Okay. They weren't thinking it shouldn't be. They just wanted to know if it would be. That was their thing. Jim Bach talked a little bit about the lockdown that they had and how successfully that went. They learned a lot of things, amongst other things that the SROs need some more training in terms of the uniqueness of the situations. And then they talked about the walk-in. They had two students there who this was before it happened. I'd be curious to get your ideas and thoughts about how you think the walk-in went at Chaska.
I think it went pretty well. I was sick that day, but a lot of my friends did end up going to the walk-in. They said it was really nice, and it was just like a cool event, and they all have this little card that they filled out, like, I'm going to do this to help, and it's hanging in our hallway, like right when you walk in our main door, and it's like from ceiling to floor, just like filled up, like kind of like on a chain. So, but it was like a really cool, all my friends said that it was really cool, and it was just
Good.
an amazing experience, just to like be able to learn and know that there's other kids around you that have the same opinions as you, and they want to have a safe environment in school.
And the difference, and one of the things that I was struck with their presentation was how mature they were in terms of laying it out and what they wanted to do. They wanted no adults. This was totally done by the kids. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't help but draw comparisons to when I was up there in that we'd have a demonstration like that, and everybody, well, not everybody, but half the group that took part was thrilled to death because they got to get out of school and take off someplace. And it was very discouraging being out there chaperoning because they were just talking about everything except what was the reason for them being out there. And I got the impression with this one that it was very seriously done and very thoughtfully put together and showing the power of I don't want to say kids. I don't want to say young people because both are demeaning. So let's go with student.
That's what a lot of my friends were saying, that it was empowering because it was about them and it was for them, and they felt like that they were doing good and that they were doing it in a respectful and peaceful way.
Exactly, and the word you use that I think is the most appropriate is empowering. Because it's easy to dismiss and say, well, 6 months from now, this is going to all be forgotten, and they're going to go off and get their scholarship for softball or go do this and lay around at the beach. It doesn't seem like that's the mindset this time because of the fact that they've been empowered. So anyway, I congratulate the students at Chaska for the great job they did in organizing that and accepting it in a responsible manner.
And Fred, I did take the opportunity to just go and check it out that day, and really proud of the kids, and they did a tremendous job putting that together. And you're right when you talk about empowering and just the maturity of the entire group, and specifically the leaders of that. And what I was really proud of is that they were advocating action, not a position. Mm-hmm. And I think
yes.
All of us agree that we want safe schools. And so they talked about that, but they said you need to do something. But it left it open-ended as to what that was for you, which I thought was really, a great thing. Empowering voice, whatever it moves you for your voice to say.
Very impressive.
It was very well done.
Thank you.
All right, and I would just remind everyone that March 25th is the deadline for Teacher of the Year nominations, so you're not out of time yet, but you're getting there pretty close, so that's just in less than a week. And then I just wanted to say, I am at the Eastern Carver County Athletic Center fairly often for soccer practices, and I tend to walk around the track because, you're there for an hour or whatever. But I'm just so glad to see so many people who are also utilizing that building who don't necessarily have a child who's participating in something, because I see neighbors who I know their kids have graduated, and they're there walking every time I'm there. So I'm just so glad, because, it's for everyone, it really is. And so I'm just so glad that the community at large really is taking advantage of that facility in addition to the schools and club teams and everything. So I'm just glad that it's being used. And then we are on to communications from our superintendent.
Just a couple of quick things. The last couple of weeks I've had the opportunity through instructional rounds to, last week I was over at Middle School East. Today I was at the IAA. And, again, it's always a great opportunity to get in classrooms and see what's happening. And really impressive with being at East. We were in a science classroom, and they were working on chemical compounds and the coefficients for balancing the equations, right? And teacher does a really kind of a mini lesson, and then kids are working independently, and the teacher says, if you have additional questions, I'm going to go back here to the workshop, and I'll lead some additional workshop on this topic. And two of the kids sitting next to me, hey, let's go back to the workshop, and off they went. It was no big deal. It's like, I need some extra help, let's go. And there were about 7 of us adults in the room, and I can tell you about 5 of those adults also went back because they wanted to know, how do I do this? This was in 6th grade general science.
Wow.
They were doing things that I was probably struggling to do in high school chemistry. So, and then listening to discussions and in a literature, a language classroom, just the maturity of the questions they were asking. Clearly, the teacher had done a lot of work in preparing them because it was a student-led, 2 different groups leading these discussions. But again, all the way, and then we ended up in a coding class at the end, and so again, the rigor of even the middle school level is just really impressive. And like as you've been out in the middle schools, when you think of middle schools, you don't always think about super high engagement, right? And that's what you see when you're out there, and that it doesn't matter which middle school you go to. So again, just always really impressed to be out there at the IAA today. Again, what just talented kids we have, as you look at the different projects they're doing and incorporating the different standards through those. As some students were presenting some of the artwork they did in ceramics, and they were also talking about the glaze and the chemical reactions behind it and how the heat impact. So it was more than just, here's something I designed and I threw it in the kiln, right? It was really beyond that. And then we also had the opportunity to eat some crepes, which was fantastic as well. But horticulture and just those kids are also super engaged in that and engaged in the learning. So again, just it always feels really good to be out and about in the classrooms and see the fantastic work happening with our staff and with our students. Last week finished up the last parent advisory of the year. And those have gone really well, and I just thanked them for their time. There's typically about 15 parents who are there as kind of a core group, and then they kind of rotate. It's typically the PTO leaders of the building, but it's kind of a lifetime membership, so once you're in the group, if you want to keep coming, you can. But we have some great conversations, and as we talk about, topics for next year, I always put that question out there to them, and they want to update on enrollment in facilities because they know where that's leading for us. So for them to ask that, it was really positive, and they're energetic and ready to go. They want to know more. They want the foundation, the 112 Foundation, to come in and talk to them as well, and they're excited to hear about that. an update on safety and security, which we did this year, so kind of an ongoing topic with them. So they always ask great questions, and just a lot of things top of mind, but it's been a great, very valuable resource for me this year, and so I just want to say I appreciate their work. And then Thursday I had the opportunity to Southwest Metro Chamber of Commerce, which I sit on that board, but they're doing a leadership development program. So they've got about 16 people from various businesses throughout the community, cities and banks, and I mean just a number of different things. And so I had the opportunity, we brought them here to the district office to start out the day, and had the opportunity to take about 45 minutes to just brag on the great work that we're doing here, but also give them a better perspective of what it's like in our classrooms today and how that's changed from their experiences and where we're headed. And they ask great questions, and we're super engaged. So it was, and again, a good opportunity to reach out and have those shared conversations in terms of our business partners, our community partners, and the school district. That's all I have.
All right. Our final item then is to adjourn.